Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Barn Talk. I'm Glenn Kennedy. This is my partner, Charles Mott.
Glad to be here.
How you doing this morning, Charles?
It's a beautiful day. It's hard to believe it's just a couple weeks before Christmas, and we have this weather, this beautiful sunshine out there.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is.
So, Charles, I've had a few requests, and people asking me, why is there not a cemetery in West Covina?
The land was just too valuable for the amount of people in West Covina. If you notice, a lot of the homes are built between walnut trees, and the barns were built also between walnut trees and any other sheds. And sometimes the barns sit quite a ways off of the road or off of the house, and the houses sit back also. And I guess that was good when the roads were widened. But the land was basically just too valuable for cemeteries. And that's and Covina also.
Yeah. Okay. So there's no and we're going back to the 30s or 40s.
Yes.
Covina didn't have a cemetery. West Covina, Azusa, Irwindale, La Puente, Hacienda Heights, Bassett area.
Mm-hmm.
No cemeteries.
No cemeteries.
At the time, the only cemeteries around were Rose Hills.
That's correct.
And Oakdale up there on Grand and Gladstone.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a few pioneer cemeteries.
Yes.
I know there's one in Monrovia, a Live Oak Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
The one on Valley Boulevard there, I don't know if it's Rosemead or El Monte, but it's called Savannah Cemetery. You have Fairmont. It's up in the hills in Glendora.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's one in Laverne. I don't know the name of it, but Laverne has an old pioneer cemetery. And then you got the two in Pomona.
That's correct.
You have Pomona Cemetery, I think Holy Cross, which is across the street from it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And
and then there's Spadra Cemetery.
Yeah, you got to talk about that. We see that one off the freeway.
We see that one off the freeway. Now I know every kid in high school has gone up there.
Yeah.
for the last 60 years.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's hard to get to. You have to park on I think Pomona Boulevard there, and go around the building or go through the building or through the back, run over the railroad, go over the railroad tracks,
Mm-hmm.
and then sneak your way into it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a family cemetery, right?
I think it is. It was and also you can see them cleaning it once in a while off the freeway.
Yeah.
And it's I
don't think there's that many graves. Maybe 50?
50 at the most.
Maybe at the most.
Yeah.
I know the Roland House up here. They have a family plot there.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably about 30, 50 graves, something like that.
Yeah. And then if you were Catholic, we didn't have a Catholic church in West Covina or Covina, and I know some of them went over to the mission and was buried.
Okay.
And that would be a choice they would make. Have you ever been to the mission?
Yes, I have.
The cemetery is quite small, isn't it, compared to
I think they stopped burying. Well, where they bury them? 4 deep, 5 deep?
I would think so.
Yeah.
By now.
Well, it's just too small. If you want to be with your family, everybody has to be stacked on each other.
Yes, and they still dig those graves by hand. There's 4 men.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, I've always thought that the old-fashioned way. And if you go there for a funeral, you'll see the 4 men sitting on a wall. The walls are not very high. They're the old, they're probably 5 feet. And they'll be sitting there waiting for the sermon to get over with, and then they'll take care of the grave. And it's kind of goes back in time, doesn't it, with the mission?
Yeah.
And everything.
Okay. So, I was also, I don't know if it was you, but somebody told me that the reason why they couldn't bury anybody because once you buried somebody, you had to register the property.
Yes, you do.
Is that true, Charles?
That's true. The land has to be registered, and also you cannot sell it without permission from the state. You cannot lease your land out, lease that land out for farming. Of course, nobody would want to do that. But once it's designated, if you have 10 acres, you designate it as a cemetery, it will always be a cemetery.
Okay.
And
okay.
Now,
come on, Charles. You knew that back in the early 1900s, the people who couldn't afford to go to the cemetery. You know, they buried him in the backyard.
Sure, they did. We know that. And they dug him in the plot of the family. You know, some have been working with him for what, 20, 30 years, you know, as part of the
Yeah.
family. Yeah, you know that. And they have a potter's.
Yeah, back, I don't know, maybe in the 20s or 30s, they started, the people who couldn't afford to be buried, um, they took a part of the cemetery. The county had a part of every cemetery, and they buried you in what they call Potter's Field. And they buried you. There's no frills. You don't even have a gravestone. You have it's a little round circle with a number on it,
Sure.
and that was your marker. And you know, that's just how they did things.
Yeah, that's how they did it. And
Now you get cremated.
yeah, you have to just. We're going to run out of land, of course.
We have run out of land.
Yeah,
There's just the people in this valley alone, San Gabriel Valley alone today. You
Yeah.
can't bury them. There's not enough room.
Yeah, that's right. Not enough room
Not
at
enough
all.
room. Even though Rose Hills is the biggest cemetery in the Western Hemisphere, there's still not enough room.
Yes. And Glenn, do you know why they put up that beautiful fence and fenced off Rose Hill in the 50s?
Okay, well, my mom told me this.
Okay.
Because people are dying to get in.
I was waiting for it. Waiting all day for that. Yeah. And it's the way it was. And you know, the Long Beach Freeway, they had to move a lot of graves there to build the freeway.
What's that? Is that the Evergreen Cemetery?
Yes.
Okay.
It sprawled out that far. And it did. They just removed them and put them in another spot. But they were kind of nice about it. They could contact the family.
Well, they had to. It's the law.
The law.
It's the law.
Yeah, that's right. It's the law. And they took good care of the people there. I always thought that was kind of nice. And
So getting back, so the people in West Covina and Covina, same thing. So their land was considered too valuable to start a cemetery.
yes,
Because all the agriculture.
sure, the people wouldn't sell it for that because they wouldn't lose their farm. Plus, to buy it would be very expensive. I feel the one up on Grand Avenue, I feel that was kind of a wash. There's a creek that runs there, and that used to overflow, I would imagine, or come down from the hills. I would imagine that was a real rocky soil and secondary land, and that's probably why it got started there.
So explain to us what secondary land is, Charles.
That's land that was used. You could, trees like walnut trees and orange trees, and even avocados up in the hills here, they were really the money maker, you might say. They were basically made for this valley, so that's what they put in. And the secondary land be melons, cantaloupes, strawberries in some ways, or zucchini, and those kind of crops. And that's what they use the secondary land for. There was always something wrong. The land was too sandy, or it had a hard pan they had to break up, or it just was not good growing land, for trees, especially walnuts and citrus. Here in West Covina, I don't know, but I don't think they've never reproduced the walnut land that we had here in the trees. They've tried all over the world, but we had the best. Covina had the best citrus.
So did
trees.
Whittier.
Whittier, that's right.
Whittier was considered the walnut capital of the world at one time, yeah. So it's basically the general area.
The climate was perfect. And it's amazing when we get into some areas, there'll be a spot where they'll put in walnuts, and then they'll leave a few spots vacant. It's just not good land. So that's what they use this what we called secondary and tertiary land. Yes.
So Oakdale,
I
know it was built in 1890.
1890.
I know there was burials before that. So it started out as 20 acres. Now it's 120 acres.
That's amazing.
That's a big chunk of property in that part of town. That property's worth a lot of money.
A lot of money. Even 20 acres in those days would be quite large.
So it had to be secondary property.
It had to be.
Yeah. To have that much because you'd lose income.
Yeah.
You'd be losing your income. That's why.
A family could live on 10 acres. So you'd have two families that could do quite well on that first 20 acres if it was good citrus or good walnut land. So, and 20 acres would be just amazing. That was quite a large farm.
Yeah, and since then we brought in Forest Lawn.
Forest Lawn, that's
Boy,
right.
that was quite a deal in West Covina.
We
First, I tell the people here first that it was going to be at BKK Dump. The residents protested, and they lost out.
Mhm.
So they moved to where they're at today, which is County Covina, but they asked West Covina to annex them in,
Mhm.
and West Covina said no.
That's right.
I don't know what it was with that council that had a thing against the cemeteries, but they said no, so it's still County Covina.
Yeah.
In fact, they wanted West Covina to go all the way up to Cal Poly,
Mhm.
and then go north all the way to Badillo. So all that Covina Hills and the Covina Highland and that part of Charter Oak, all was going to be West Covina.
Yeah. And that
But the city never annexed it in,
Never did.
and they were asked to.
yes. And I never understood.
I've never understood. That would just talk about a bad business decision. Wow.
And the hospital, and I mean the cemetery caused quite a stink in the city.
It was actually a big, at that time
Yes.
in the early 60s, it was a big nightmare.
It really was.
It really was. A lot of protesting.
Yeah.
People got thrown out of office for
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
Yeah,
They did.
it was actually a big deal.
It really was. It's very.
And when did the one in Rolling Heights? What is that? Queen of Heaven.
Yeah, Queen of Heaven. Yeah.
So that was built in the late 50s.
I would say the 50s,
Yeah.
late 50s. Yeah.
I know a friend of mine who was murdered in high school. We buried him up there
Oh, he did.
about 1980,
Mm-hmm.
and it was still wide open.
Yeah.
There was no big huge wall around it. It had like chain link fence,
Mm-hmm.
and all that property was wide open. Now you go up there, it's all houses and everything else.
Yes. And you know, I guess
And that's a Catholic cemetery.
that's a Catholic
Yeah.
cemetery. So see, as we grew, and I think a lot of people went into Los Angeles and were buried, don't you?
Yeah, and then you had the veterans being buried at the time over there by UCLA.
Yes, that's correct. Big.
Was that the Wilshire?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're buried in that cemetery. And that was huge. That's a huge cemetery.
That is huge. And see, we didn't have to take our agriculture land for that.
Well, yeah, well, it makes sense because I've been asked this question many times, and there had to be a reason, and the reason was the property was they didn't want to give up the agriculture for a cemetery.
That's right. That was the main reason. Just like they wouldn't take the trees out to build a house.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. That's why your barn's all crooked over here because they built it in between. They built it in between the walnut trees.
Yeah, there was a piece of property on Sunset and the family wanted to build a home, another home, and that had to be built between the trees. That's what the bottom line was that they did, and so that shows you a little bit how valuable this land was to the farmers at that time.
Yes.
So,
okay,
that was nice, Glenn. That was a good.
Well, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think we've just about done it.
Okay,
And I appreciate this, all our viewers, and I hope they'll learn a lot.
okay. Well, thank you, Charles, and talk about the library or something next time.
Next time we'll do
Okay.
the library. Okay.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Charles.
Bud.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
people, for watching.
Thank
You
you
have a
for
nice
watching.
day. Thank you very much.